Hey everybody, welcome back. This week we're going to be making a delicious, rich and creamy dessert topping or spread called lemon curd. You'll often see this inside pastries or donuts or as part of some fancy French patisseries. Although it's made from fruit and sort of has the consistency of jam, it's really something else entirely. We're going to be adding egg yolks and butter, which makes it richer and creamier than a jam. It's also not a pudding or a custard, which often use cornstarch or other thickeners, whereas lemon curd only uses eggs. So let's jump in. The first thing we're going to do is zest a lemon. Now this lemon is pretty big, so I'll only need to zest this one, but if your lemons are small, you could add two. I prefer to hold the lemon still and move the microplane or grater over the lemon. It's easier to see what you're doing this way, and I only really want the yellow part of the lemon without any of the white. It's also easier to not grate your fingers. I'll add this to a fairly large saucepan. To that, I'm going to add 1 cup of granulated sugar. You could definitely use caster sugar here as it's a little finer, and I imagine that fancier recipes would recommend caster sugar. However, I haven't found any issues with granulated sugar not fully dissolving or ending up grainy, so I wouldn't buy any special sugar for this recipe. Then you want to give this a really vigorous whisk. This will release the oils and aromas from the lemon zest and get it into the sugar. You can also do this in a small blender or spice grinder. Then we need the yolks from 6 eggs. I happen to be making this lemon curd because we have 5 yolks left over from making cookies, and this is a great way to use up extra egg yolks. I'm cracking and separating 1 more egg here and adding that yolk to the rest. Then we're going to add those 6 egg yolks to the sugar-lemon mixture and give that a really good whisk as well. You want to whisk this until it changes color. You'll notice that it will start to get lighter in color and less orange, more yellow. This might take 40 seconds to a minute or so. Now we're going to take any lemons that we zested earlier and we're going to juice them. I find that sometimes these bigger lemons aren't quite as juicy as the smaller ones, but we'll see what we can squeeze out here. Ultimately, we need to get a half a cup of lemon juice. Now this lemon didn't have enough juice in it, so I'm going to add some bottled lemon juice here. Some people will definitely scoff at not using freshly squeezed juice for this, but I think it's absolutely fine, especially for home cooking. And you heard it here, it basically makes no difference. Next up, we want to whisk the lemon juice into our sugar-egg mixture. You want to do this just a little bit at a time, adding a couple of tablespoons, whisking it in, then adding some more, and so on. Maybe making 4 or 5 separate additions in total until all the juice is in there. Then we want to put this pot on the stove and turn the heat to medium. We really don't want to leave this pot unattended, but I do have a minute or so here before it gets warm, just to start to prep the butter. We want to take a half a cup of very cold butter and cube it up. This butter is just barely thawed from being in the freezer. Okay, the pot is starting to get warm now, so I need to be whisking this pretty much constantly for roughly the next 10 minutes or so. I'm just going to quickly cut up this butter and get it back into the fridge so that it's really cold for the next step. Alright, a few minutes have passed now, and we're still whisking away. I'm just making sure to get into all the edges and corners of the pan so that nothing is sticking or scorching. And now here we are after about 10 minutes, and you can see that it's really started to thicken up, and you'll notice that it's sort of bubbling like lava. Now this is about as hot as you'll ever want this to get, otherwise you could start to scramble the eggs. So if it's bubbling more than this, just pull the pan off the heat for a few seconds and whisk it really quickly to help it cool off. Now I've removed it from the heat, and we're ready to add that butter. You can add it all at once, and as I mentioned before, you want this butter to be fridge cold. That helps to slow down the melting a little bit and gives the butter the right amount of time to incorporate into the rest of the mixture. So you just drop it in and then whisk it gently until all the butter has disappeared. At this point, you're technically done, and I'll often transfer this to a jar and call it a day. But you can optionally pass this through a sieve or a strainer to remove any lumps that might have formed or bits of egg that got overcooked. I almost always skip this step, as I said, and as you can see, there aren't really any lumps to strain out, but if you do see some after adding the butter, this is how you can get rid of them. From there, you want to cool this to room temperature, and then it's ready to taste. Looks like someone already got a little taste of this, but I'm going to try it now. So I'll spread a little bit on some toast. It's tangy but sweet, This is a real treat for the palate. So let's take a look at the costs here. You can see that the real cost is in the eggs and the butter. As I mentioned though, generally this is something that we'll make when we have extra egg yolks left over from another recipe that need to get used up. So in a sense we're repurposing some leftovers here as well. So the egg cost could be partially overlooked. The total to make this amount of lemon curd though was $3.90, and this filled a 500 milliliter jar, which is about a pint. The total prep time was about 8 minutes to zest the lemons, measure the sugar, separate the eggs. And from there, cooking time was about 12 minutes. So that's it. Rich, smooth, and tangy as a spread or dessert topping. It's silky and custard-like, but also intensely lemony, and both sweet and tart at the same time. It's a real favorite around our house and really so easy to make. If you enjoyed this video or you found it useful, then please do hit the like button. And as this is a new channel, I'd very much appreciate you subscribing so I can keep bringing you more videos. Thanks, and we'll talk soon.